Does everybody know everybody here? No? Yes? Yes. Okay. Well, I'm getting to know some of you. We'll see how it goes. As you see on the screen, this is part 3. What happened to part 1 and part 2? I picked this topic because just 2 evenings ago, with the Chinese devotees, we discussed Aghasura part 2. But Aghasura hadn't even appeared yet. So this evening he's going to appear. And I thought it's real easy for people to hear pastimes, Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. So that's what we're going. We're going to Vrindavan, right from Dallas, Texas. Now, is it possible to go from Dallas, Texas to Vrindavan by sound? Directly, one can, by sound. Now, there's probably a number of many devotees that are in Vrindavan physically. So we won't be there physically, just vibrationally. And this is chapter 12 of Canto 10. And the first 2 parts are just describing Krishna's age and that celebrated verse, Krita Punya Punja. Everyone knows that verse. How many heaps and piles of pious activities that cowherd boys have performed in order to play with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the glories of the cowherd boys and their good fortune is part of what we already heard, or those that heard part 1 and part 2. But the main theme, and it's essential to have a full appreciation of what we're about to hear in part 3, is the extent of the playfulness of the cowherd boys. It's described that they didn't actually herd the calves. That Krishna is between 4 and 5 years of age. So picture some boys that are between 4 and 5 years of age, very playful, commonly. And Krishna had affection for the cows, and the cows had affection for Krishna. But when he asked his father if could he herd the cows, he said no. The cows are so big. But Krishna was so persistent. His father said, all right, you can take care of the calves. So the scene is with Krishna and the calves. And this chapter 12 comes before chapter 13. In chapter 13 is Brahma Vimohan Leela. That's part of chapter 12. And then Brahma's prayers is chapter 14. So there's a fantastic section of Krishna's childhood pastimes in Vrindavan. Very fantastic section. And the playfulness, the mood that leads up to Aghasura's making his appearance is the playfulness of the cowherd boys. They're between 4 and 5 years of age. Playful, playful, playful. The calves, they weren't herding the calves were following them. Because they're attached to Krishna. And wherever Krishna goes, that's where they go. And wherever the cowherd boys and Krishna go, that's where the calves go. And so they were just playing and playing and playing and playing. So when the cowherd boys entered into the mouth of Aghasura, the calves didn't make it yet because there were a lot of cowherd boys. In previous section, there was some number of how many calves and how many cowherd boys. And the language that's used by Shukadev Goswami is asankyata. Too many to count. So there was a whole discussion on what's that? How can countless calves, and then besides the calves, then all the cows, and all the cowherd boys, and where they all fit? Because Vrindavan isn't such a big place. Anyway, it has to do with the picture to leading up to what we're about to describe. That's what I'm attempting to do right now, is create that mood and that picture of the unlimitedness of Vrindavan, the unlimitedness of Krishna's potencies, the inconceivable and unlimitedness of the whole situation. So by material estimation, we can't, it's fiction, or it's fairy tale, or it's a nice story, but however, it's fact, and the fact is made possible by inconceivable, unlimited potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if one wants to limit the unlimited, then he's not God. But if he's unlimited, and unlimitedly playful. So here's a nice verse. Some of you like nice verses. This is a nice verse composed by Rupa Goswami in Stavamala. It's an expression of his humility, and it's presented here because the mention, rather than calling Krishna by name, he's addressing him as the killer of Aghasura. So there's a recording. You see a little horn. There's a recording, and someone is going to sing these verses twice, each stanza. So you can just follow along. If you're a good singer, you can sing along too. Whoop.
प्रचीनानां भजनमतुलं दुष्करं श्रीमते प्रचीनानां भजनमतुलं दुष्करं नैर्यासेन ज्वलति भक्ति विशाल विश्वदृचे अगहर तवागण्यकारुण्यवीक्षे आशाबिन्दुक्षितमिदम् उपेत्यन्तरे हन्तशैत्यम्
The meter lends itself to the mood, or the mood is created by the meter. It's a prayer with a voice of sorrow and humility. I'm very weak and lazy to do even the smallest devotional service, and so when I hear of the peerless and difficult to perform service performed by the great devotees in ancient times, my heart burns with despair. O Lord, O killer of Aghasura, when I hear that your waves of mercy splash everyone from the demigod Brahma down to the most insignificant creature, then my heart becomes sprinkled with a cooling drop of hope. Rupa Goswami. So the playfulness is now reaching a climax. We'll hear specifically. Shukadeva Goswami says, my dear King Parikshit, thereafter there appeared a great demon named Aghasura, whose death was being awaited even by the demigods. The demigods drank nectar every day, but still they feared this great demon and awaited his death. This demon could not tolerate the transcendental pleasure being enjoyed in the forest by the cowherd boys. So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur raises the question in his commentary, how could Krishna's pastime be interrupted by a demon? Not possible. His answer, the Leela Shakti of the Lord, seeing that the bliss of the boys from playing was increasing and increasing at every moment, and it was not possible for them to stop playing. Seeing that without stopping playing, they could not eat, and that the eating time had already passed. Also, seeing that it was necessary to kill the demon, Krishna's Leela Shakti brought the Aghasura demon towards the boys, inspiring him through Paramatma. You see this painting on the top. He's winding his way towards where the cowherd boys are. In Jiva Goswami's comment, the Devatas, though they had drunk nectar, were fearful of death, and thus waited for Aghasura's weak point, thinking, when and how will he die? And Sridhar Swami's commentary, the meaning can be, even though the Devatas were fully absorbed in liberation or Amrita, they waited his death. They wanted to live long in order to see Krishna's pastimes. And he continues, they were without death because of accepting bodies for pastimes, or their subtle and gross bodies were without destruction. It is said, even the liberated accept forms and participate in the pastimes. The Devatas were expecting these pastimes. So the Devatas are watching. We know that because Lord Brahma is one of the ones that was watching, because he reacted to the whole scene. Aghasura, who had been sent by Kamsa, was the younger brother of Putana and Bakasura. Several times already reference was made to that verse spoken by Uddhava in Canto 3, Aho Bhakti, how merciful is the Supreme Lord Krishna, because Putana, who was the sister of Bakasura, and thus Baki, the sisters of Bakasura and Aghasura and Putana were brothers and sisters. They're all three of them were sent by Kamsa to kill Krishna. First, Putana to find where is Krishna, but to kill him once she found him. And then once she was identified, when it was identified that she had been killed, then to Aghasura is in a get-back mentality. Krishna, killed my younger brother, or my older brother Baka, and younger sister Putana. Here's directly from the verse. Therefore, when he came and saw Krishna at the head of all the cowherd boys, he thought, this Krishna has killed my sister and brother, Putana and Bakasura. Therefore, in order to please both of them, I shall kill this Krishna, along with his assistants, the other cowherd boys. So that's the plan. And here's the next verse. Aghasura thought, if somehow or other I can make Krishna and his associates serve as the last offering of sesame and water for the departed souls of my brother and sister, then the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, for whom these boys are the life and soul, will automatically die. If there is no life, there's no need for the body. Consequently, when their sons are dead, because along with Krishna were all the cowherd boys, and the cowherd boys are dead, the parents are going to be so much filled with lamentation, they'll give up their lives. All the inhabitants of Braja will die. He has a master plan to wipe out Vrindavan by killing Krishna. After thus deciding, that crooked Aghasura assumed the form of a huge python, as thick as a big mountain and as long as 8 miles. Now, it doesn't say what form he had before he assumed the form of a python, but mystic powers, some other form. Doesn't say. Because Putana had a human-like form, but she also had shape-changing abilities. And Bakasura, similarly, shape-changing abilities. So Python, Aghasura, same, 8 miles long. Having assumed this wonderful python's body, he spread his mouth like a big cave in the mountains and lay down on the road, expecting to swallow Krishna and his associates, the cowherd boys. That's his plan. Resolving thus, at that moment he spread himself out without moving, since he was a cheating killer who could easily swallow them all by tricky means. He would swallow them all at once, since he was a python. This is Sanatana Goswami's commentary. Or he was cruel, with a proclivity for eating such boys. His lower lip rested on the surface of the earth, and his upper lip was touching the clouds in the sky. He was a big guy, 8 miles long and big mouth. The borders of his mouth resembled the sides of a big cave in a mountain. And the middle of his mouth was as dark as possible. So he's ready. His tongue resembled a broad traffic way. His breath was like a warm wind, and his eyes blazed like fire. I have to do something here. Excuse me, I got the picture covered over the text. Oh. What's going on? Okay. Upon seeing this demon's wonderful form, which resembled a great python, the boys thought that it must be a beautiful scenic spot in Vrindavan. Thereafter, they imagined it to be similar to the myth of a great python. In other words, the boys, unafraid, thought that it was a statue made in the shape of a great python for the enjoyment of their pastimes. Very playful boys. Some of the boys, on seeing Aghasura, started to run away, thinking it was a big snake. Other boys, however, considered that Aghasura was one of the wonders of Vrindavan. They comforted their fearful friends by saying, "Oh, fools, a snake can never be this big. If something created by the Lord out of clay, so that we can appreciate the splendor of Vrindavan even more, He has made it in the form of a huge snake with a big gaping snout." The boys said, "Dear friends, is this creature dead, or is it actually a living python with its mouth spread wide open just to swallow us all? Kindly clear up this doubt." Thereafter they decided, "Dear friends, this is certainly an animal sitting here to swallow us all, its upper lip resembling a cloud reddened by the sunshine, and its lower lip resembling the reddish shadows of a cloud. On the left and right, the two depressions resembling mountain caves are the corners of its mouth, and the high mountain peaks are its teeth. Its length and breadth, the animal's tongue resembles a broad traffic way, and inside its mouth is very, very dark, like a cave in a mountain. In Vrindavan," this is Sanatana Goswami's commentary, "in Vrindavan, because of unlimited cows wandering about, it appeared that there was a wide road naturally everywhere." Back to the verse. "The hot, fiery wind is the breath coming out of its mouth, which is giving off a bad smell like burning flesh because of all the dead bodies he has eaten." Then the boys said, "Has this living creature come to swallow us? If he does so, he will immediately be killed like Aghasura without delay." They're fearless because Krishna always protects them. Thus they looked at the beautiful face of Krishna, the enemy of Aghasura, and laughing loudly and clapping their hands, they entered the mouth of the python. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, "Together, they spoke with a little fear. This thing, if it really is a snake, and we enter his mouth, will he swallow us up?" Someone then answered, this is commentary, to calm them down, "If it is so, then in an instant, he will kill as he killed Baka." Saying such words, they smiled while looking at Krishna, who was standing some distance away. Krishna is within our glance. So, what have we to worry? Then they entered the mouth out of boyish curiosity. Again, the playfulness of the cowherd boys is just an essential part of the scene. So here they go. cowherd boys and calves just walking into the mouth of the big demon. They looked at Krishna's face and laughed loudly to show that what they had said was a joke, implying to Krishna, you should be careful here. And Sanatana Goswami's commentary, Aghasura was a cheating killer. Aghasura is the personification of intolerance and cruelty. Due to a lack of compassion for living entities, there is a possibility that one's spiritual attachment will gradually diminish because compassion cannot remain separated from spiritual attachment. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Chaitanya Shikshamrita. The basis of compassion for the living entities and one's devotion to Krishna is the same. I'll say it again, it's nice. The basis of compassion for the living entities and one's devotion to Krishna is the same. It's a very nice teaching. Bhaktisiddhanta is going to amplify the same point. Aghasura epitomizes cruelty and violence. It is possible for love to suffer gradual decay by the absence of kindness for all animate beings. This must be so, inasmuch as kindness can never be a different principle from love for Krishna. Nice. There is no substantive difference between love for Krishna and kindness to individual souls. Which is really nice. I'll just elaborate on this a little bit. We hear, what is it? That's it?
No.
And where's the sound coming in from? Oh, the fireplace, the pipe in the fireplace. And the rain falling on the pipe in the fireplace is making a lot of sound.
It's windy outside.
It's definitely windy. Yeah. Well, there's so much emphasis on Maichananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. There's so much emphasis on very singular focus on the personality of Godhead. Does that mean, because we just yesterday were discussing Kunti's prayers, and in Kunti's prayers, let my mind flow forever to you, like the Ganges flows towards the sea. Does that mean, the answer is no. Does that mean people here and people there can take a hike and they can, whatever happens, it's okay because I'm focused on Krishna? So both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta are saying the same thing. I like the way he says it. I'll read it again. Aghasura epitomizes cruelty and violence. It is possible for love to suffer gradual decay in the absence of kindness to all animate beings. This must be so, inasmuch as kindness can never be a different principle from love for Krishna. There is no substantive difference between love for Krishna and kindness to live individual souls. We discussed this a little bit. A universal characteristic of a Vaishnava or a person situated in knowledge is Pandita Samadarshana, seeing with equal vision all living entities, regardless of their coverings and regardless of anything, the species, the behavior, the conduct, the character, seeing with equal vision. Seeing with equal vision in transcendence doesn't mean you can't see differences. You can see differences. But the oneness is the spiritual spark within, and the spiritual spark within does not and cannot exist separately from Krishna. So seeing it conversely, that Samadarshana, fundamental characteristic of a self-realized soul or perfected soul, is seeing with equality the love for Krishna and the compassion for living entities. So here we go. This is how Aghasura is being characterized by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta as cruelty personified. He doesn't care. And in fact, it's not just Krishna, it's the cowherd boys and Krishna. And it's with the cowherd boys and Krishna that it's all living entities in Vrindavan, because Krishna is their life and soul, their children are their life and soul, and take them away, and people will give up their lives. So he's Kamsa's buddy, his agent. Here's continuing Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Sri Krishna's activities are of two distinct types, Nitya Lila and Naimittika Lila, or eternal pastimes and occasional pastimes. Very nice point. Krishna's Nitya Lila, or eternal pastimes, are conducted through 8 periods of the day, and they are constantly in motion, Ashtakaliya Lila. But in Boma Vrindavan, Krishna's Nitya Lila is mixed with the occasional, or Naimittika Lila, occasional pastimes, like this one. Very curious painting. He's showing Krishna's entering the mouth of Aghasura and so many other demons giving up their lives. So it's occasional pastimes. Some occasional pastimes include Krishna's leaving Vrindavan to live in Mathura and Dwarka, his returning to Braja, his killing of various demons and so forth. These pastimes are very useful for an aspiring devotee who is bound within the material world. That means us. The Naimittika Lila, or occasional pastimes of leaving Braja, actually exist in Goloka, but only in a conspicuously absent manner. They are truly manifest only in the material world. Curious. They actually exist, but they're inconspicuous by their absence, or conspicuous by their absence. Meaning, another way of saying the same, is everything is within Krishna. Well, there's nothing that exists that's not within Krishna, because everything that exists is within Krishna. It's from Krishna. So the occasional pastimes are also within Krishna. They're just not being manifest or conspicuous by their absence, but they're within Krishna. It's important. That is to say, that the rasa, the pleasure that Krishna experiences, the taste of these activities, it's within Krishna, always, but not being displayed. But they're displayed in the material world because they're particularly helpful for conditioned souls. That's the statement in the upper left. These pastimes are very useful for an aspiring devotee. Useful because of their intrigue, their sweetness. In this section, the commentators went all over the place describing the unique features of Krishna's childhood pastimes in Vrindavan. The childhood pastimes of Vrindavan are not manifest in Goloka. Krishna is eternally 16 or youthful, and the childhood pastimes are absent. They're within Krishna, and therefore the rasa of Krishna is within Krishna, but they're not being displayed, and they're being displayed here, particularly beneficial for us. I mean, it's not that Krishna doesn't enjoy them all the time. He's eternally enjoying them. They're his eternal pastimes, but just conspicuous by their absence pastimes. This naimittika means occasional. That is when he appears in this world. I hope it's clear. It's part of understanding Krishna Tattva. And part of it, of Krishna Tattva, is understanding the uniqueness of his Vraja Leela. And the attractiveness of Krishna's Vraja Leela, particularly beneficial for conditioned souls. It's not that anything in relation to Krishna is less beneficial, but it's especially beneficial, the childhood pastimes of Krishna. When he leaves, then those childhood pastimes are withdrawn. It's a little bit like the description when Krishna's Dwarka pastimes end. There are some personalities, Krishna's eternal associates in Dwarka, that have that Aishvarya mood, the Dwarka Aishvarya mood. When Krishna's pastimes end, they enter into the unmanifest state. But they're eternally there. Same for Krishna's Naimittika Leela. The pastimes are eternally being performed, and some very fortunate souls have those pastimes revealed to them, like Rupa Goswami and others, highly qualified persons. They actually experience Krishna's childhood pastimes in Vrindavan after Krishna has no longer been performing those pastimes, because they're eternally situated within him, and he has withdrawn his physical or his visible presence, and similarly the personalities with whom he engages in pastimes, their presence has been withdrawn also. It's a big mystery. It's a nice mystery. Killing of the demon Aghasura symbolizes removing the sinful activities of violence toward living entities and torturing others due to hatred. This is continuing Bhaktivinoda Thakur's description. Sincere devotees hope that by the influence of understanding the purpose of Krishna's performance of different occasional pastimes, their own various anarthas or unwanted material contaminations will be destroyed. And this is the theme of Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Well, I'm sure most of you know, but I'll repeat. Extensively in Krishna Samhita and Chaitanya Shikshamrita, those two books, Bhaktivinoda Thakur elaborately discusses Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan and his killing of demons in Vrindavan, and the killing of this demon represents the potency, Krishna's potency, to remove this obstacle, that obstacle, or another obstacle for a sadhaka. So hearing these pastimes is good for sadhakas, because hearing of the pastime itself helps one overcome different obstacles on the path of pure bhakti. So specifically the killing of Aghasura, the unwanted tendency to be callous to other living entities, is taken away. Here's a description from Garga Samhita. Who was Aghasura in his previous life? The description there is Mahalashva, the king of Mithila, is inquiring from Narada Muni, who was this demon in his previous birth that he was able to enter Krishna's abode simply by hating Krishna? This demon quickly attained Lord Krishna. Narada replies, O king, he was Shankachyuta's son. Different explanation. Shankachyuta's son. Shankachyuta is a follower of Kuvera in the heavenly realm. And his name was Agha. He was young, strong, and very handsome. He was like another Kamadev. However, when he saw the disfigured sage Ashtavakra walking by the Malaya hills, Agha laughed at him and said, who is this ugly person? So that's an artist's depiction of a sage bent in 8 places, Ashtavakra. Then the sage cursed the demon Agha. Oh, wicked-hearted one, you will become a snake. You will be the ugliest snake in the circle of the earth. Seeing that the demon, his pride and arrogance now gone, had fallen at his feet, the sage became pleased with him and gave him a benediction. Here's the benediction. Sri Krishna, who is more handsome than millions of Kamadevs, will enter your stomach. Then you will be free from having the snake's form. End of part 3. Now there's 4 parts. Should I go on? I thought so. There they go. This is very interesting. Wait a minute. Here's part 4. Part 4 is over here. The section that is particularly fascinating for me is Krishna. When Krishna sees the cowherd boys entering Aghasura, he wants to tell them to stop, but they don't stop. And he becomes bewildered. So how does the Supreme Omniscient become bewildered? There's the verse again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, this full screen. Sri Krishna, who is situated as Antaryami, the Super Soul, in the core of everyone's heart, heard the boys talking amongst themselves about the artificial python. Unknown to them, it was actually Aghasura, a demon who had appeared as a python. Krishna, knowing this, wanted to forbid his associates to enter the demon's mouth. No, the celebrated BBT painting, we'll see this again. There they go, dancing into the mouth of the demon. But Krishna didn't want it, but it happened anyways. Jiva Goswami comments, knowing it was not only a python, but a Rakshasa named Agha, since he was in everyone's heart as Paramatma, was the inspiration for all things, and was endowed with all powers, he wanted to prevent them. So, further comment from Priti Sandarbha. Similarly, When Ramachandra entered the forest, and Lakshmana was also absent, the worst of the Rakshasas, Ravana, kidnapped Sita Devi, the daughter of king of Videha, just as a tiger seizes unprotected sheep when the shepherd is absent. Then Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest with his brother Lakshmana as if very much distressed due to separation from his wife. Thus he, Ramachandra, showed by his personal example the condition of a person attached to women. Though internally Rama was controlled by prema, externally he announced the result for persons who freely associate with women by performing actions of indifference. In manifesting pastimes, where he is absorbed in human actions with intense prema for his devotees, sometimes the Lord shows bewilderment, contrary to his omniscience. Jiva Goswami is drilling down on the perplexity that the all-powerful, all-knowing, supreme controller wanted something to not happen, and it happened. So how's that possible? He's all-powerful, he's all-knowing, and whatever he wills, that's what happens. So he's willing something else, and it happened. It's hard to understand it. So here's the short little answer. It says that the Leela of his human-like pastime being displayed. That is a good quality, it's not a fault, since it bestows happiness, apriti, to the wise. For his bewilderment supports the sweetness of his pastimes. He accepts this bewilderment by his will. Got it? It's a little subtle. Krishna hasn't lost his omniscience or his omnipotence either. By his will, he wants to enjoy a happiness, the happiness of apparently being bewildered. It's like, Krishna is feeling separate. It's like Ramachandra is feeling separation from Sita. There's a very nice statement made by Hanuman. There's no question of Krishna being separated from Sita. There's no question of Lakshman being separated from Sita, being separated from Ram. But there's a pastime in which both of them are separated from the Lord. Not possible. So it's a Leela. If it's not possible, then what is it? It's a Leela. And what's the Leela demonstrating? The Leela is demonstrating, Jiva Goswami is indicating, it's a type of happiness that's within the source of everything, including this bewilderment that's within the source of everything. Everything is within the source of everything. And so it's a Leela as if bewildered like us, but it's just a heightened state of prema. Krishna has such love for the cowherd boys, he can't bear the thought, or to speak of the sight, of the cowherd boys entering the mouth of a demon. He can't bear the sight. And it happens. So it's amplifying like anything, a certain bhava, a certain ecstasy, Oh no. And then there goes the emotion. So Krishna's experiencing that emotion by his own consent or his own will. So Leela looks like it's going against his will. The internal, this is a nice way to say, rasa rules everything. If you don't understand something, try to consider the rasa involved in that something that you don't understand, and then it becomes evident, or at least understandable, because it's the key to everything. The happiness of Krishna is the power behind everything. In the meantime, while Krishna was considering how to stop them, all the cowherd boys entered the mouth of the demon. The demon, however, did not swallow them, for he was thinking of his own relatives who had been killed by Krishna and was just waiting for Krishna to enter his mouth. So that the python's digestive power didn't start yet. He didn't close his mouth yet. Now, who's going to win, Krishna or the python? Just as he desired and decided to stop them, the boys, along with the calves, entered the snake's mouth. Does this mean that Krishna's Satya Sankalpa Shakti, through which his every wish is fulfilled, did not work? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, the devotees had the desire. If we go in the serpent's mouth, will he swallow us? If he swallows us, our friend will kill him, as he did Baka. Then they're playful, they're adventuresome, they're in Vrindavan, they're performing Leela with Krishna. Nothing stops them. Of the two desires, the desire of the devotee prevails. Krishna was saying no, they were saying yes. The devotee's desire prevails. Then Krishna has to adjust things. Why? The Lord, this is Vishwanath, the Lord is controlled by his devotee. This is the arrangement of the ever-watchful Leela Shakti of the Lord, which is to increase the sweetness of the pastimes and destroy all contradictions. It's a very simple pastime, and there's complexity within the simple pastime. So we can say it's Leela, or even more explicitly, Vishwanath continues to use this Leela Shakti. There are three. Krishna has spiritual potencies, or Swarup Shakti, the Sanskrit phrase, Swarup Shakti. And the Swarup Shakti has three main divisions and subdivisions. Shri, Bhu, and Leela, or Neela. Shri, the goddess of fortune. Bhu, that's that in Dwaraka's pastimes, Shri is Rukmini. And Bhu, Satyabhama. And Leela, or the Dham, Neela Shakti or Leela Shakti, just like any devotees here from South India, from Sri Vaishnav upbringing, or have some understanding of their deity worship. Commonly they have, there's deities of Narayana. In the front of Narayana, there's three deities, Shri, Bhu, and Neela, because they're the Swarup Shakti of Narayana. So in Krishna's pastimes, they're also there. But they're performing the activities in his Braja mood or his Dwarka mood, but they're there. So this Leela Shakti is one of Krishna's Swarup Shaktis, and this Leela Shakti is arranging Krishna's pastime for his satisfaction. And his satisfaction is the happiness of his devotees surpasses his own happiness. He wants that their desire prevail over his desire. So because he wants it, Leela Shakti arranges it. It's very nice. Carrying on to the next verse. Krishna saw that all the cowherd boys who did not know anyone but him as their Lord had now gone out of his hand and were helpless, having entered like straws into the fire of the abdomen of Aghasura, who was death personified. Then the painting, Krishna's holding up his hand. Stop. But they don't stop. It was intolerable for Krishna to be separated from his friends, the cowherd boys. Not only intolerable by rasa, but fact. They're inseparable. Therefore, as if seeing that this had been arranged by his internal potency, Krishna was momentarily struck with wonder and unsure of what to do. It's right in the verse of the Bhagavatam. It's like he's enjoying this condition of being uncertain. And then the next moment he knows for certain what to do. Got it? I hope you got it. It's worth, may you dream of this tonight. Meditate on it and take sleep dreaming on, thinking of, how is it possible for the omniscient, all-powerful Krishna to be baffled? That you're familiar with the term Satya Sankalpa Shakti. Shakti we all know. Potency. And Sankalpa means intention or purpose. And then Satya Sankalpa Shakti is it's fact. He doesn't have to do anything. He just desires. His Icha Shakti is perceived by Satya Sankalpa Shakti, and voila. He doesn't have to lift a pinky. He doesn't have to lift Govardhan Hill with his little finger of his left hand. He doesn't have, just his potencies do everything. And he performs a pastime as if he's lifting Govardhan Hill, or as if he's becoming bewildered, or as if he's doing whatever he's doing. And it's his potencies are conducting his desires. It's therefore lila. It's a pastime. And our acharyas are helping us to understand how Krishna Tattva works. Seeing the boys escape from his hand, Krishna was astonished at the actions of his Lila Shakti. What was the cause of astonishment? One might ask. It is not possible for these cowherd boys to have rubbed the karma. And besides, the Supersoul does not give them the tendency for karma. So what was that all about? Well, some bad activity in the past, and so they have to suffer the present circumstance. There's no question of prarabdha karma for cowherd boys or for pure devotees. And the tendency for error and mistake and karmic bound activity is not within they can't touch them. Because Supersoul is my expansion, Lila Shakti does not do anything unfavorable to me. Therefore, the Lila Shakti has made this seemingly unfavorable arrangement with the desire to put me, full of prema, into the compassionate mood, karuna rasa. I mean, there's a lot of commentary on this particular passage or episode where Krishna become bewildered. The cowherd boys, in fact, enter the mouth of the demon. That's bad. How can that happen? How can the demon have any presence? How can the cowherd boys enter the mouth of the demon? when Krishna doesn't want it to happen, how's it possible? It's a fascinating lila. It's Karuna Rasa. Karuna Rasa is one of the secondary, there's 5 primary and 7 secondary and subdivisions of the secondary. So it's one of the primary, one of the secondary rasas where one is feeling great compassion or sorrow for the misfortune of the cowherd boys. How astonishing is her control over me, the form of all rasas, the king of all lila, Lila Purushottama. So, there's a nice devotee. He recently came through Texas. Parama Karuna, distributing books on college campuses. Some of you know him. Yeah. Amazing devotee, isn't he? Like, very amazing devotee. Very, very focused on his service. So he sent me a text message recently asking this very question. You know, Krishna is omniscient and all-powerful. How can things happen that are going against his will? It's very unreasonable. And then the answer is, without looking at rasa, it's a contradiction that has no answer. But looking at rasa, then it's easy. There's the answer. Krishna wants to experience, or Leela Shakti wants Krishna to experience a heightened state of compassion where something he doesn't want happens. So he's feeling very compassionate, very much concerned about the welfare of the cowherd boys. It's Leela. It's Leela Shakti. It's a nice understanding. Now, Krishna's dilemma. What was to be done? How could both the killing of this demon and the saving of the devotees be performed simultaneously? Krishna, being unlimitedly potent, decided to wait for an intelligent means by which he could simultaneously save the boys and kill the demon. Then he entered the mouth of Aghasura. Listen, there's a nice little teaching embedded here. What do you do when you don't know what to do? You wait for the auspicious moment. You wait for the right time. It's not, impulsive action is not always wise. Wise may act immediately because there's urgency. A car is coming, heading for your car. You can't space. You have to do something quickly. But there are circumstances that it's not clear what to do, and it's not. If you have the luxury to be thoughtful, be a little thoughtful, and then wait for the auspicious super soul indication, and then the right time to execute what super soul is indicating. Then you can act swiftly or decisively or clearly. So Krishna is enacting something that gives us a lesson, in other words. Krishna saw the perfect way to enjoy pastimes and then liberated the demon to protect the devotees and destroy the rascals. He saw the unlimited calves and boys. He then entered the snake because he was overcome with affection by seeing their condition. He is called Hari because he would remove their suffering and attract their minds. And that surely that's what happened. That's Jiva Goswami. Here's a comment from Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Again, this is Sanatana Goswami. Narada is speaking to Gopakumar. I worship the pastimes he performed in the early mornings when he entered the Vrindavan forest with his calves and friends. Most relishable pastimes, such as entering the mouth of the great serpent after pondering in various ways. Now, Sanatana Goswami composed Brihat Bhagavatamrita, and he certainly was aware of Srimad Bhagavatam, so he's making Brihat Bhagavatamrita, in essence, as a commentary on the Bhagavatam. And specific here, the personalities, the speaker and the listener, Narada and Gopakumar, they're different persons than Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit, but it's the process of questions, answers, or discussion format that commentary may take. And the commentary is telling us that Narada, one of the features of his worship of Krishna is he appreciates so much his Vrindavan pastimes. Very, very relishable, sweet pastimes. And he points to the example of this particular episode where Krishna is pausing, pondering in various ways how to rescue the cowherd boys. First, how to stop them, and how to rescue them. When Krishna entered the mouth of Aghasura, the demigods hidden behind the clouds exclaimed, "Alas! Alas!" But the friends of Aghasura, like Kamsa and other demons, were jubilant. You see up in the clouds, there's the demigods. Krishna's got his hand on his chin. What to do? These boys are climbing in the mouth of Aghasura, but I'm supposed to kill him. When Krishna heard the demigods crying, he immediately enlarged himself within the demon's throat just to save himself and the cowherd boys. There you see in the painting, Krishna's in the mouth, and he enlarges himself. Then, because Krishna had increased the size of his body, the demon extended his own body to a very large size. Nonetheless, his breathing stopped, he suffocated, and his eyes rolled here and there and popped out. The demon's life air, however, could not pass through any outlet, and therefore it finally burst out through a hole in the top of the demon's head. That was a quick ending to Aghasura. When all the demon's life air had passed away through that hole in the top of its head, Krishna glanced over the dead calves and cowherd boys and brought them back to life. Powerful glance. Then Mukunda, who can give one liberation, came out from the demon's mouth with his friends and the calves. The calves and boys seemed to be dead. Jiva Goswami writes, this expresses similarity to human pastimes. Actually, they had fainted out of separation from Krishna, being embraced by his Chit Shakti. Next verse. From the body of the gigantic python, a glaring effulgence came out, illuminating all directions, and stayed individually in the sky until Krishna came out from the corpse's mouth. Then, as all the demigods looked on, this effulgence entered into Krishna's body. Vishwanath writes, in the light of the serpent's body was Shuddha Sattva, according to Sridhar Swami. The light that was seen was the Shuddha, the spiritual potency of the soul. That an evil person can get liberation, as illustrated here, is for instilling faith in the people. Though the soul is normally invisible, embraced by the Shakti of the Lord, this soul became visible directly as a great light, like the great light of the Parabrahman. The light of the soul is not visible to material eyes. It became visible by the Lord's will. Thereafter, everyone being pleased, the demigods began to shower flowers from Nanda Kanana. The celestial dancing girls began to dance, and the Gandharvas, who are famous for singing, offered songs of prayer. So they're having a festival. Yay! The wicked witch is dead. There's modern stories that just follow the path of Vedic literatures. When Lord Brahma heard the wonderful ceremony going on near his planet, accompanied by music and songs, sounds of Jaya, Jaya, he immediately came down to see the function. Upon seeing so much glorification of Krishna, he was completely astonished. Oh, King Parikshit, Sukadeva Goswami continues, when the python-shaped body of Aghasura dried up into merely a big skin, it became a wonderful place for the inhabitants of Vrindavan to visit. And it remained so for a long, long time. Sanatana Goswami writes, by the power of Krishna's touch, the demon became successful. What more can be said? As in the case of Putana, his dead, even his dead body, became fragrant and most attractive. The skin became suitable for playing, used as an instrument, etc. It stayed there for a long time. It was also a cave used for playing in all sorts of ways. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, there was another astonishing event which you should hear about. Though Krishna performed the pastime when he was 5 years old, the cowherd boys reported the incident when they were 6 years old, as if the incident, being freed from the mouth of the serpent, had happened that day. So now we're going to hear what happened during that 1 year, for a whole year. Here's what happened. Krishna is the cause of all causes, the causes and effects of the mundane world, both higher and lower, and all are created by the Supreme Lord, the original controller. So we know what this, I'll say that the pastime, the commentary is nice. Krishna expanded himself in both calves and cowherd boys. Because what's going to happen, it hasn't happened yet, but Brahma is going to steal the calves and then steal the cowherd boys. So Krishna wants to pass, and there's a reason going back to the chapter 1 or the first part, Balaram wasn't there. Because it would have spoiled the pastime. Because Balaram was all powerful and omniscient. And he wasn't part of the pastimes. He was back home. So for that 1 year, Balaram didn't recognize, although he's omniscient, he didn't recognize these aren't the same cowherd boys. They look like the same cowherd boys, but they're not the same cowherd boys. And the calves are not the same calves. They look like the same calves, but they're not the same calves. So Krishna, the whole pastime is a pastime. Krishna wanted to reciprocate with the mothers who desired to have Krishna as their son, along with their own son. So Krishna became their son. And the cows wanted to have a calf like Krishna and have loving exchange with their calf like they have with Krishna. So Krishna became their calf. And for a whole year. So what happens with little boys that are 5 years old in the course of 1 year? They grow. So what happened? Each of the cowherd boys that were going home every day at the end of taking care of the calves, they grew 1 year's worth. And then the ones that were put into the cave, they grew 1 year's worth. Very interesting. Transcendental pastime. When Krishna appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, he did so by his causeless mercy. Consequently, for him to exhibit his unlimited opulence was not at all wonderful. Indeed, he showed such great mercy that even Aghasura, the most sinful miscreant, was elevated to being one of his associates and achieving Sarupya Mukti. Not Sayuja, Sarupya, which is actually impossible for a materially contaminated person to attain. It's impossible, but it happened. Krishna's mercy. Aghasura also attained, this is Jiva Goswami, same saying, similar body to Krishna. Sayuja itself is rare for the demons, and Sarupya is even rarer, as this is reserved for the devotees. He got the same liberation as the devotees. Forms like the Lord in the spiritual sky. Shoo. Here's Jiva Goswami. The Atma was not a demon. The demonic nature is a covering, or upadi. That covering was destroyed. It's not a fault of the Lord to show mercy to his faultless part. Rather, it is praiseworthy, since the Lord showed the highest mercy in destroying the demoniac nature of Agha. Krishna's childhood pastimes. Now, we can just read like children picturing in a children's book. It's a nice story. It's really, really a nice story. But to understand more deeply what's going on, our acharyas are helping us. Similar the comparison is being made, just like Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. They saved the Jaghai and Madhai personalities who were like so sinful, but they became freed from their sin just like that, and became restored just like that by the power of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, or Nimai Pandit and Lord Nityananda. Krishna took pleasure in entering the mouth of Aghasura in a sporting spirit, along with his associates. Prabhupada's commentary. Therefore, when Aghasura, by that sporting association, as maintained in the spiritual world, was purified of all contamination, he attained Sarupya Mukti. Krishna's entering into his mouth. His lotus feet are touching the body of the serpent. He's becoming purified. Purified sufficient to attain Sarupya Mukti. I think we're going to end quickly. There's still some more slides, but you get the picture. Even if only once, or even by force, one brings the form of the Supreme Personality Godhead into one's mind, one can attain the supreme salvation by the mercy of Krishna, as did Aghasura. What then is to be said of those whose hearts the Supreme Personality Godhead enters when he appears as an incarnation, or those who always think of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the source of transcendental bliss for the living entities, and by whom all illusion is completely removed? So it goes on with similar discussion. I think I'm going to close up. The merciful potency, merciful nature, and merciful potency of Krishna went through, in this particular Leela, went through some changes. But, the mercifulness prevailed. While in between, there's the tasting of rasa, that who knows what that experience was for him. Because, as it is said, the cowherd boys see Krishna as their life and soul. And Krishna sees the cowherd boys as his life and soul. And they entered into the mouth of Aghasura demon. And he knows he's a demon. And he didn't want them to go. Anyway, so it's the transcendental motion aspect of the pastime was experienced. And then the boys were saved and the calves were saved, but Aghasura. Sarupya Mukti. Ki jai. Fascinating pastime. Now the form, one more time, the form was a python, but the python was a mystical appearance, and the form was that of a human-like person who had mystic powers and assumed an 8-mile-long serpent form. Whew. Mystical place. 8 miles. Think about it. To drive from your home where we were staying to come here, how many miles? Mitakund. The driving time, driving distance. How many miles? 10 miles. That's a big serpent.
8 miles.
Huh?
That was 8 miles, right?
Yeah, 8 miles. And with his jaw up in the sky and the lower jaw on the ground, big guy. And behaving like a python, just waiting for his prey to come. And sure enough, then Krishna liberated him. His plan was to kill Krishna, the cowherd boys, and all the Brijbasis. That was his plan. His plan didn't work, although he tried. And the pastime's not over yet. because Brahma's going to come and do what Brahma does, and Krishna's going to do what Krishna does, and very charming pastime, all in one day. And it started out, that the pastime started out one day, it's like a nice story. Once upon a time, Ekada, one day. Every other day, Mother Jasoda would feed Krishna before he would go out with the calves. But one particular morning, Krishna desired to go without breakfast. And to have a breakfast, he had a picnic in the forest. They hadn't had their picnic yet. They were so busy playing. The commentators make a point. The main feature was not the killing of Aghasura demon. The main feature was Krishna wanted to have a picnic. And they haven't had their picnic yet. So after Aghasura's kid, that's when the picnic happens. And when they're having their picnic, that's when Brahma steals the calves, and then the cowherd boys, and all in one day. Pretty exciting place. And you never know what's next. I'm reading Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. Has anyone read that book? Wow. It's like, what's next? And what's next? And it's such a big adventure. Being with, that's resonating here. Being with Prabhupada, at least from the eyes of Shyamasundar, it was really exciting. And what's next? And what's next? And what's next? And it was always so dynamic. And it's filled with surprises. Driven by compassion for living entities that are unnecessarily suffering, and having the wherewithal to relieve them of suffering. Knowing what the root of suffering is and how it can be mitigated. And having that Shakti to do it. Thank you. Okay, let's see if there's some discussion. Yeah. Haribo.
I had a question about the occasional pastimes of Krishna. You said there's pastimes that eternally happen, and there's pastimes that occasionally happen. And in one of the examples, I think it was mentioned on one of the slides that Krishna leaving Vrindavan is also an occasional pastime.
Yes.
And I was listening in another lecture that Krishna remains in Vrindavan in his original form, and he expands as Narayan, and he leaves Vrindavan. So I was trying to reconcile the two. Like, so is the act of Krishna expanding into Narayan and leaving Vrindavan the occasional pastime, or just confused there? So
I don't see a contradiction. I don't see a contradiction because Krishna eternally resides in Vrindavan, and the occasional pastimes means they're manifest in this world, but there's no Krishna leaving Vrindavan in the spiritual world, in Goloka. That's the occasional part. In contrast to upper Golok and the worldly Goloka, the worldly Goloka pastime is the occasional part. And the other pastime is not in this, it's not, Krishna doesn't leave Vrindavan. So one can say, wait a minute, Krishna left Vrindavan. Yes, it's an occasional pastime. So how can you reconcile, which is your question, the occasionalness? Because he never leaves Vrindavan. It's all, everything, it's everything that exists is within Krishna. Or Otherwise, it doesn't exist. But Prabhupada's way of saying the same thing. There's two things. There's Krishna and there's Krishnas. There's not a third thing. So again, the occasional pastime means in contrast with Upper Golok. But in Upper Golok, it's existing within Krishna, just not manifest. Because everything is within Krishna. And then it's manifest in this realm, that therefore occasional.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance, Aghasura. Maharaj, I had a question regarding, you mentioned that when the coward boys were entering the mouth of Aghasura, Krishna had this heightened emotion or compassion.
Yes.
So
Yes.
is it happen the same way with practicing devotees when they are headed towards misery or like Aghasura kind of conditions, and Krishna has the same compassion, but we don't see the intervention as we saw in Aghasura Leela? So is it similar thing, or
What's the punchline of your question? Is it what? Partiality? Is that what you're asking?
not partiality, but I guess probably it's lack of understanding that maybe Krishna is intervening, but we are not
Well,
seeing
no,
it.
he doesn't interfere. The yogis don't want him like the devotees want him. So the devotees want him, so Krishna may put them on the edge of a cliff, looking over the cliff, and then Krishna rescues them. But that's not the same thing, because the yogis don't want that relationship with Krishna as the devotees want with Krishna. So that is to say, devotees may be put into difficulty by Krishna, and then Krishna rescues them. And the yogis don't want that connection with Krishna as the devotees want their connection with Krishna. And so they don't have that same experience of being rescued by Krishna, because he doesn't interfere with, he may give them siddhis, but their siddhi is so they can fly around or become whatever they can do. But being in their relationship, loving relationship with Krishna is not what they aspire for. And so they get what they aspire for. Does that touch, or does that hit your question?
Yes, Maharaj, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Krishna Maharaj, Maharaj. Maharaj, this question is around the moksha, what Aghasur got. So, if we look at chapter 12 Bhagavad Gita, over there Arjun asks.
Speak slowly.
Chapter 12 Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, got it.
Arjun asks Lord Krishna that who is more perfect, the devotee or the one who worships the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested.
Right.
And normally we say that the one who worships the impersonal Brahman achieves the Brahma Jyoti. But in chapter 12, Krishna says that such a person finally achieves me. In chapter 12, while answering Arjun, Krishna says that such a person who worships the unmanifested finally achieves me.
Well, what does that mean? Unpack that. What does that mean? Finally. Answer. Without bhakti, no. With bhakti, yes. So it's not all those who have this impersonal realization eventually see Krishna. That's not correct. Without bhakti, it's not possible. So that the person that has the realization of the impersonal feature may, and they may not, receive the seed of bhakti.
Okay.
You have a different understanding?
No, because when Krishna,
I know what it says. Don't have to say again what it says. But eventually, what does that mean? They may, but may not also. And what's the may? Without contact with bhakti, they will not.
Okay, maybe I think Krishna doesn't say may there. He just says that at last achieves me.
Okay, and I'm adding what I'm adding. At last. They may not also. Is there a guarantee for someone that has Brahman realization, that Jyoti realization, they will, without a doubt, 100%, in all cases, they will achieve Bhagavan realization? No.
Okay.
Let's take another verse. Bahunam janmanamante. Those persons that achieve perfection, siddhanam, hardly one knows me in truth. How to put those two together? The verse that you're referring to from chapter 12 and that verse. It's rare. So what it allows the two to match. I invite you, because you're asking the question. I mean, I'm going to be at the temple on Saturday morning. And between now and Saturday morning, I'll certainly have time to read commentary on the verse that you're referring to and the verse that I'm referring to, and see if there's some unification or some way of uniting the two, because it's clear. It should be clear. Without bhakti, those that see the impersonal feature or realize the impersonal feature, they're not going to realize Bhagavan without bhakti. It's not going to happen. At last. But there has to be something. And that something is bhakti. I mean, we don't gamble, but I'd bet. Our Vaishnav commentary will answer this. Your question.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavata Pranam. So, I had a question. You mentioned that when Aghasura died, his there was a light that
Yes,
emanated,
yes.
and through Krishna's mercy, we were able to see the light, and it then merged into Krishna. So, I heard that there is a concept where all souls eternally exist and individually exist, and there is no merging concept.
Whoa. Go slowly. You just described a concept and then you say there's no concept.
No. So what I've heard is that all souls, along with Krishna,
Souls are eternal. The souls are eternally eternal.
exactly.
Individual. And but the last part is there's no concept of. So what is that there is no concept of? Is there such a thing? The answer to this question is yes. Is there such a thing as Sayuja Mukti? Yes. But what is it? In Sayuja, do they lose their individuality? No. What's the Brahmajyoti? Is it teeming light of those individual souls packed together?
Okay, yeah, I mean, that is the question I had.
So they don't lose their individuality, they're suspended.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first question is, how does hearing these pastime remove the anarthas? Like, for example, for Aghasura, it's removing cruelty and intolerance towards other living entities?
Well, there's potency. It's not like you hear the pastime and now you're squeaky clean. There's potency. So you want to know, how does potency work? Yeah, how does it
The
cleanse
spiritual
you?
technology. How does the spiritual technology work?
Yeah. There's a that's Krishna's secret formula. Embedded within this spray, you spray this spray and scrub, and then this kind of dirt can be cleansed. But you have to keep cleansing. But eventually this kind of grease or whatever it is can be removed. And then there's another kind. So there's embedded within the pastime, there's a potency.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have one more. So sometimes we have people around us who do not act the way we want them to act.
No.
So then there is violence towards them inside, right? Labeling them, whatever is happening inside is happening. So Pandita Samadarshana, all that is all good, but in the spur of the moment, when things are happening and involved in those moments, how do you change the internal dialogue that's going on from
Purity.
violence to non-violence?
Purity. There's no substitute. Until purity comes, then the mixed is going to happen. Some knowledge, and then something that pushes the knowledge, and the knowledge gets pushed to the side, and emotion rules, the mind rules. So when there's purity, then it's not just conceptual, it's purity. Jnana vijnana. When there's actual shelter, when there's attachment to the personality of Godhead, then one doesn't deviate.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Even in the greatest calamity, according to Bhagavad Gita, even in the midst of the greatest calamity, one doesn't deviate. Fixed. Okay. Yes, way in the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the lecture. I wanted to ask, so you said that Aghasura was also siblings with Putana and Bakasura as well.
They're brothers and sisters.
I was wondering how come they all became siblings, and what is the story of how Putana and Bakasura also became demons?
It's not clear. There are two sources that give those past life expressions, and the one that I referred to, Garga Samhita, doesn't have the same credibility. Bhavishya Purana is another that gives the past lives stories. They don't always agree with Garuda Purana, with Garga Samhita, and it's more credible, but it's not the same as Garga Samhita. It's not, but that's a general answer to a response to your question. The particular question is, how did it come to be that they're brothers and sisters? What's the backstory? Basically, you're asking, and I don't know. I'm not aware of any reference that gives that answer. Oh, here's another one. I don't know if they're all brothers and sisters, who is their mother and father? And the answer is, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know any scriptural reference that gives the answer to that question. It just says that they're brother and sister.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi.